We've been in this series, Treasure, and I think it's so important that we get this. That because someone had treasure, they gave it, lived it, prayed it, so that I have what I have today. I don't know if we're mindful of that or not, but we're seated in this place. Some of you would know Pastor Richie. Some of you know the name. Some of you know the name because I've mentioned it or you've heard it. Pastor Richie died several years ago. I did his funeral. He was a founding pastor in 1975. And so you may not have met him, but you need to grab this, that because of his prayers, because of his praying ahead into a future possibility, you're here today. You with me? Like, people built this building and gave of themselves and sacrificed so that we could enjoy what we have today. I'm glad for that, aren't you? Like, so it's important to understand this, that they left a legacy that we enjoy today. And by the way, in every aspect of your life, you could probably point to some place where you didn't arrive there on your own, but somebody else paved the way. Maybe it was a grandparent or your parents or someone that, by the way, somebody you didn't even know that has invested their life into eternity. And here we are today enjoying that. And I think that's pretty cool, don't you? Yeah, I thought about, Harold, could you come up here? Yeah, you can meet me here, or you can come up there, whatever works best for you. That's good? Okay. So turn around, smile at everybody. If you don't know Harold, Harold's a good guy. And I would say this, that he came to me last Sunday and told me about this. I didn't know about it, or I forgot about it. Nancy Simon, who comes to the first service, I don't know, she's older than me. I'm not going to try to guess her age, because that's not good to do, right? We don't want to go there. But her late husband had a comic book collection. Now, I didn't know him, and she didn't come here during this time. And so she came to Harold. Harold does an eBay business, and he came to me last week and said, hey, I'm going to have a check next week because Nancy Simon gave me her husband's comic book collection and said, sell it, and whatever you get for it, give it toward the cafe. Some of you know we're opening a cafe, Cafe 127, based on James 127, to help the widows and orphans. And we're going to be giving money, everything over top of what the coffee cost, to help Angel Care as they care for young ladies who found themselves pregnant and help to care for them. And it's an exciting thing to do. Coffee. A good cup of coffee is good, but it's even better when it has a purpose attached to it, right? And we don't want to shout like, "Hey, we don't think you should do that with your child," and then not offer some help. Are you with me? Church needs to be knowing what we're for, not just what we're against. Are you with me? And so Nancy said, "I want to give whatever we get from that." I don't think she had any idea what this is going to be. Can you tell them? Just read off how much that is.
This is $1,200 she gave. And I still have a lot of them listed, so they should still sell more. And we sold one to somebody in Australia. So.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Hey, Chris, can you take that back to the bookkeeper? I don't like to hang on people's money. I may put it in the wrong spot. In the old church, when I was young, they'd come and give me their tithes sometimes. And I put it in my pocket. The next time I pulled his jacket out, there'd be. So like, I'm just going to give it right now. So just walk with me now. Watch this. That somebody, as far as I know, that none of us knew, had built some kind of treasure. And then Nancy had the vision to say, let's invest this into eternity. Because she could have $1,200 in her pocket herself. She said, let's invest this into eternity to make a difference in somebody's life that maybe we'll never meet. That there'll be a child that's born that to a mother who wasn't ready for this child, who doesn't know how to navigate finances and all that stuff, who's now going to be able to keep that child, and that child will grow up never knowing all the connections of legacy that's been provided for it. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, and I just want us to grasp this morning. When we think about treasure, well, there's a lot to consider. I've been in this series now this is our 4th Sunday. We started out with just the idea that when we give, well, what we're saying is, God, you're first. We're saying, God, I'm demonstrating my faith in who you are. And we're saying, God, I'm given to see the work of the kingdom, the Great Commission, that every man, woman, boy, and girl will hear the good news of Jesus. And that's where it starts with my treasure, with your treasure, because we all have something that we treasure, and what we do with it. And second week, I talked about intentionality. That there's power in intentionality. You didn't get here, most likely, on accident. Today, yesterday, this week, maybe 2 weeks ago, you made a decision. I'm going to be at church on October 19th. I'm going to be there on that Sunday morning. I'm going to be here this coming Sunday. I'm going to be in attendance. And what you're saying is, I'm going to be intentional with what I do on Sunday. And I've already mentioned, I talked last week about living a generous life. I want to go to the text we've been using during this time, Matthew 6, 3 verses. Some of you've got it memorized by now. Jesus said, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where the moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither the moth nor the rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. Here it is. In case we didn't get it, Jesus gives it to us. For where your treasure is, say it with me, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Right? That where I make a decision to build treasure, to add value to things, well, that's where my heart is. And it's so important that we grasp this idea that what he's saying is, you're gonna leave a legacy. Is it going to be just earthly things that are temporary? Because nothing on this earth is permanent, right? I mean, the stuff that we own, the stuff that we gather, the stuff that we build up, well, eventually it decays and it rusts and it corrupts and all those things. He's saying, don't do it there, but make your legacy eternity. It says in Matthew 16:26 that what profit is to a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Or what would it profit a man? Right? What would a man give in exchange for his soul? That the greatest value that you have is that part of you that is eternal, the soul that God's put within you. And no matter what you could gain in this lifetime, well, it never amounts to the great worth and value of eternity. And I think so many times we get lost. I read something like this not too long ago, kind of a humanity point of view, mankind point of view, that we arrive with nothing. We spend our whole life chasing everything, and still we leave with nothing. And there's a little bit of a truth in that. But then I would say I disagree, at least for the Christ follower and our attitude and our posture. Now, I could say this about anybody, but for us, we have some responsibility. Because to think we arrive with nothing would be a fallacy. We arrive with everything. You say, Pastor Tony, naked you come into the earth, naked you're going to leave, and all. I'm like, yeah, but we arrive with everything, because you're sitting here today, and you could tell me about what you didn't have, what you weren't born into, the lack that was there when you came onto the planet, maybe a situation that seemed like it was hopeless, and then I would say, but you're here. Somebody fed you, somebody burped you, somebody changed you, somebody rocked you to sleep, somebody put a roof over your head, somebody took care of you. We arrive with everything that we have need of. Anybody with me? And then a human point of view is we spend our life chasing everything. And I would say that for the Christ follower, right, we arrive with everything. We spend our whole life chasing one thing. There's a whole lot of distractions. There's a whole lot of things that seem important. But at the end of our life, the one thing that we chase after should be eternity, because we don't leave this life with nothing. We leave it with eternity in front of us. And none of us in this room can grasp the immensity of eternity. We just can't get there. Like everything in this life has an end. How many know that? I know. You were in 7th grade and you thought she was going to be forever. And now you look around and you're trying to remember her name. I'm just saying, things on this earth, well, they don't always pan out. We chase after things, and at the end of the day, what I do with eternity is so important. So I want to talk about legacy today. If you've taken notes, you might write legacy at the top of your page there. Talk about legacy. Legacy, well, it has many forms. It comes in so many different ways. And legacy can be certainly that you've received something from someone before you. Proverbs 13:22 says this, that a good man, everybody say a good man, leaves an inheritance for his children's children, that we're going to pass on something. Legacy is not about getting it to us. It's about God getting it through us. And so certainly, you know, it's moving, passing through. There's a term, generational wealth. Anybody ever heard that? Right? Generational wealth is that you've gained something and you want it to last for generations. And that may be financial, but it can be a whole lot of other ways that something's passed on to you. Some of you have maybe a saying or a quote that you say that you didn't come up with it. You heard your parents say it. My dad, when he disciplined, he'd say, "Now it's going to hurt me more than it hurts you." I never did believe him. And then you become a parent, you're like, it does hurt you more than it hurts them. I didn't come up with that. You know, so many things in life that's been passed on to us, but they're going to stay with us. Generational, the faith legacy, a spiritual inheritance. I think about my wife's grandmother. I mentioned her in the first service. Her name was Floya Nadine Elliott. And she's a little person, I don't know, 5 foot tall, 5'1", 4'11", something like that. And anytime you went over her house, I don't care who you were, she's going to ask you what you want to eat, fix you something to eat. She's going to pray for you and probably prophesy to you before you got out there. It doesn't matter if you're the Maytag repairman or if you knew Jesus or not. She's coming after you. Captive audience. She couldn't drive. She had like 3 driver's permits, never got her license. And so she's just there, you're there, and she's going, you know what? And I was asking Kim the other day, I said, so your grandmother, like, tell me the story about, like, I knew she went to this meeting. She was going to a nice little Baptist church. Then she got invited to this Holy Ghost meeting, and she went there, and she said, well, her mother-in-law invited her to go to that church service. And I thought, isn't it amazing that here this mother-in-law invites her daughter-in-law, and then I look at Kim and the impact of her grandmother on her, that she didn't just let faith die with her, but she passed it on. And then I look at my daughter and my grandchildren, that legacy didn't stop, but it continues to be passed on. Some of you sitting right here is because somebody went before you, and maybe you don't even know who that was, praying for you or living out a faith life that you look at. Maybe it was a teacher, or it was a pastor, or it was a parent, or it was a friend that just lived this out in front of you to the point that now you inherit such a great spiritual inheritance. And it's so important that we understand legacy. Psalms 49, verses 16 and 17 says this, do not be overawed when others grow rich, when the splendor of their houses increases, for they will take nothing with them when they die. Their splendor will not descend with them. Did you catch that? He said, descend with. He gives us a little indicator of what kind of person this is, that it's not going to descend with them, that we could amass great possessions and wealth, and yet if we don't have the attitude and posture to say, we're going to let this flow through us, we can't take it with us. And so Jesus says, don't lay up yourself treasures on earth, but lay up treasures in heaven, eternal investments that you can live out and leave a legacy. And this whole living out legacy is so important, because it doesn't start when you get old, because you may be young. You think, well, Pastor, that sounds like a good message for somebody that's aged. The legacy starts now. Everybody say now. Yeah, it starts now. I remember I was 17. I got a job at Kmart. Some of you don't even know what that is. That's okay. I was working in sporting goods. and they wanted me to work 40 hours a week. So I said, okay. And took me back in a little HR office. And they said, okay, here's what you get. I didn't know anything about benefits. And it's so funny the way our employment structures changed, in that Kmart was offering like health care and life insurance. And then they said their retirement plan. And I'm like thinking, retirement plan? I don't want to do that, right? That sounds like that's so far away. And yet, that's when you do it. Are you with me? Like if you start young, right? When it comes to legacy, you got to realize that right now, today, you are living out legacy. Somebody's going to be impacted by your decision. Your life is going to be impacted. And legacy is the idea that you're not living for yourself, you're living for others. And somebody is going to glean and receive from your life. And so it's the idea of our pursuit to make sure it gets through us. And so I'm gonna give you three real quick, just kind of punch these real quick, important aspects of living out legacy. And the first one is this: don't give up. Say it with me. Don't give up. I'll be honest, I love it when people win and don't quit. I live by this maxim that quitters never win and winners never quit. And if you're living for Jesus, I encourage you, don't give up. Keep on. Keep going. If you're walking out your faith, keep on walking. If you're giving, keep giving. If you're praying, keep praying. If you're loving others, keep loving. Don't quit. Don't give up. Don't give up. Galatians 6:9, the Apostle Paul writes, and he says this: and let us not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. When are we going to reap? How are we going to reap? If we do not give up. There's a harvest of so much coming if we don't give up. I love there's an old gospel song, Mary, Mary. You may not know who Mary, Mary is, but they did a revision of that song, and it says this: I just can't give up now. I've come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me the road would be easy, and I don't believe he's brought me this far to leave me. Goes on in one of the verses to say, there will be mountains. Anybody had a mountain? Right? There will be mountains that I'll have to climb, and there will be battles that I'll have to fight, but victory or defeat, it's up to me to decide. But how can I expect to win if I never try? I just can't give up now. Somebody shout that. I just can't give up now. Right? I love it. I've come too far. Come too far from where I started from. Something about looking back over your life. I love review. I love to evaluate where I'm at. Looking back over your life, and you see the pitfalls, and you see the mountains, and you see the valleys, and you see the hard times and the good times and the times you didn't think you'd ever make it through. And yet you look back and you see where you're at now, and you know that God has brought you such a mighty long way. And you just got to say, I can't give up now. Maybe facing something. Maybe you're here today and you're facing something that seems hard, seems overwhelming. Don't give up. Don't give up. Living out legacy means I'm gonna persevere. I've got determination to push on through the next obstacle and the next barrier to get to the good things that God has. And secondly, don't give in. It's different than don't give up. Don't give up's quitting. Don't give in has a connotation of compromise. Don't compromise. Compromise is a prefix with the word promise. And what happens is, if we're not careful, we can have determination, but then it gets hard, and we promise with another something that wasn't what we intended to do. That's why Daniel, I love it. And I love Daniel. He's a great character to study. If you read the book of Daniel, he's just an incredible person of God. And Daniel, in Daniel 1:8, it says this, that he purposed in his heart. He determined. He made clear what his eyes were going to be fixed on. He said he purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat. In other words, you know what? I'm not going to compromise. I'm not going to give in. I'm sold out to do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to follow my God. Legacy happens when we don't give in. I want to tell you, you don't read stories of greatness about people that compromised and gave up and gave in. And thirdly, don't get lost. Don't get lost. Sometimes lostness is confusion. I think about it sometimes, and I know I'm a little older than I used to be, but sometimes I'll be in my office. My office is in the back of the building, and I'll go up to the front of the building like I'm going to get something, I'm going to tell somebody something, and I'm on the way up here and got it in my mind, I know what I'm doing, and then somebody will stop me, and they'll ask me a question about something like, yeah, da, da. Sometimes just 2 or 3 people like stop me. And then I get up there, I'm like, why did I come up here for? I know when I left there, when the door shut on my office and I started stepping that way, I knew exactly why I was going there, clear, and then somehow I got lost and confused on the journey. And I'm just saying sometimes, by the way, I know none of you get to the room and forget what you're doing, but I'm just saying this, I know on the journey that we are walking, this living out legacy, this journey of faith, that if we're not careful by the distractions that get around us, we can get confused and lost. And what I'm saying is, don't get lost. I love the old Russian proverb says, if you chase 2 rabbits, you'll not catch either one. Pursue the one thing, and that is Jesus. Over in Luke chapter 10, Mary and Martha, Martha's upset with Mary. Mary's sitting there at Jesus' feet while Martha's doing all the hard work of preparing and being and showing hospitality. And Martha goes to Jesus and says, "Hey, look at Mary. You get on her." And Jesus says, "Listen, she's chosen the one thing that's needed." Everybody say one thing. Apostle Paul in Philippians chapter 3, he says, "This one thing I do. This one thing I do in pursuing and pressing on for what God has for me." I love what David says in Psalms 27 verse 4. "One thing I have desired of the Lord, that I will seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple." There's a desperation for the one thing. And too many times we got 15 things, we're chasing everything. And by the way, you're not going to catch anything if you got a multiplicity of focus. Singular focus in walking this out is so important, because if not, we'll not get there. We'll not live a life that brings legacy. And I just say this, don't lose legacy. I'm going to give you four ways that we can get lost in this place of and confused with legacy. And the first one for all of us is this: you are lost without faith. You're lost without faith. Now I know you could say, "Pastor, well, we understand that it takes faith to approach Jesus," and yes, it takes faith. Everybody say it takes faith. Faith is that place where you see it, where you see it. Where, because the Bible says this, that we're not walking by sight, we're walking by faith. And faith produces, Hebrews chapter 11, faith is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It's faith that makes things visible that we can't see with our own natural eye. In Ephesians 2, chapter 2, verses 19 through 22 in the Message Bible says this: God is building a home. He is using us all, irrespective of how we got here, in what he's building. He used the apostles and the prophets for the foundation. Now he's using you. Somebody say me. Fitting you in brick by brick, stone by stone. You realize that you didn't just arrive at this church. You didn't just get here, well, I just thought I'd try this out, or I just like this. Maybe you thought that, but here's what the word says. Now he's using you, fitting you in brick by brick, stone by stone, with Christ Jesus as the cornerstone that holds all the parts together. We are seeing it take shape day after day. A holy temple built by God. All of us built into it, a temple in which God is quite at home. In other words, God, because of your faith, right? We're lost without faith, but with faith, God is placing us into this structure that he wants to make his presence, place his presence in, that he's going to dwell in. And It blows my mind when I think about the apostles and the prophets laid this foundation, and now we're included in the building of this, what God is building for his presence. Check this out. There's grandparents in this. There's people, saints of old, that paved the way. You know, we stand on their shoulders right now. We reach higher and farther because people who gave and sacrificed and produced a legacy that we now stand upon, and they're in this building, not this building, but in the spiritual building that God's building. And it takes faith. It takes faith. Faith is the crucial part of making a step to not losing a life of legacy. I was going to grab one of these guys. Can you help me, Tyler? Yeah. You come around that way. Yeah. Yeah. Tyler's done this so many times before, so he knows the drill. So here's how faith works. Anybody want to know how faith works? Yeah, good. Okay. So stand right here and face that way. You're getting taller, man. So let's picture Jesus over here, and here's Tyler. And Tyler, because here's how it works, Romans 10, 9 and 10. The Bible says this, that we believe in our heart who Jesus is, that he's the Son of God, that he was born, lived, died, rose again. We believe it in our heart, right? And so you can believe it in your heart. And so here Tyler is. Tyler believes it in his heart. That's what God's done. But you see, I would just submit to you that that's a belief, but it's not actually faith that's going to bring the change we need. Because the Bible says this, that the enemy believes. The devil believes and trembles. Like, it's not that he doesn't believe who God is. It's not that he doesn't believe that Jesus is God's son. He believes it. But you see, something happens when faith goes from being internal to being external. And what happens in our life is, so Tyler here, he believes in his heart, and yet in his life, stuff kind of gets connected. Stuff that he didn't want, stuff that he didn't know got attached, stuff that maybe somebody spoke something over him that he didn't want to hear. Maybe somebody did something to him that he didn't want done to him. Maybe he opened a door and invited something in. You know how we do. And the enemy wants to just, and I don't have tentacles that I can do this, but if you could picture an octopus just with all of its tentacles trying to keep you, it's okay to believe. It's okay you got that nice little belief about Jesus and you like who Jesus is and Jesus seems like a nice guy and he says some good things. It's okay if you believe that. But you see, it's got to go, Romans 10, 9 and 10 says it's got to go from beyond that, from not just believing in our heart. It says believe in your heart and confess with your mouth. And so here's the thing, all this stuff could be holding Tyler back and he can believe in his heart, but once he says, Jesus, I believe who you are. I believe you're the Son of God. Say it, Tyler.
Jesus, I believe who you are.
Because faith is released. You need to understand that when you put your faith in Christ, that everything and anything the enemy meant to try to keep you bound and keep you from achieving and accomplishing what God's design was for your life, when you say and you release with your lips, that act right there is faith. And what it demonstrates to God is that this is real for you. Thank you, Tyler. And I would say this, that throughout Scripture, we see this over and over and over again. That, by the way, give Tyler a hand. Didn't he do a good job? Over and over again, we see what God using this. I mean, Moses, he could have believed what God said. Oh, God, yeah, that's good. So just go out there and put the rod over the water and something's going to happen. That sounds good. But until he stepped out there and stretched it out, no water was parting. Nothing was changing. Because it was a nice belief. You remember the guy that Jesus came to Jesus and Jesus said about his son, do you believe? He said, I believe, but help my unbelief. Right? It's all internal. I'm thinking about it. And it starts there. By the way, it starts there. I would say to you that there's billions of people on the planet that believe, but they've never made a faith step. It's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That's in the book of Daniel too. If you read the book of Daniel, read about it. And here they are. They're going to get cast into a fiery furnace. Now they could be believing, well, God could do this and da 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 da. But then they say to the king, our God is able to deliver us from this fiery furnace. And they go on and even if he doesn't, it's my paraphrase, even if he doesn't, he's still God. We know he can do this, and we're expressing our faith with these words as we say it before you. By the way, God does deliver them. He delivers them not because they just had some internal belief, but because they released faith in the saying of it. You see, walking out legacy means this, that I'm moving and living and acting in faith. I asked in the first service, I don't know, I assumed maybe, that everybody had seen the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. It'll be coming around sometime. Anybody seen that? Everybody seen it, say yes? A bunch of you, yeah. Yeah. If you haven't, it's okay. You don't need to see it that bad. Oh, Linus. Linus has got the belief. And it appears to me, by the way, you may not know this, but Charles Schultz, the writer of the Peanuts comic strip, he was a believer, and there's a lot of insights in some of those cheesy little cartoons. But Linus, Linus Van Pelt, name like that, you've already got something stacked against you. You know what I mean? And here's Linus Van Pelt, and he's telling them all, I haven't seen it in a long time, half a century. But he's out there in the pumpkin patch, and he's saying, hey, the great pumpkin's going to come. That sounds laughable. Anybody with me? And they think it too. This is crazy. This is crazy. But old Linus, here's what faith looks like sometimes. He continues to believe. Just because somebody else disagrees with him, he doesn't give up. He didn't lose his faith. He's sure-footed. What he believes, he's going to stand with. I would say that for every believer in this room, you got to understand that sometimes people around you, they're not going to understand your faith. They're not going to be favorable to your faith. Might even be your own family member, maybe somebody in your life, maybe a friend, and they can't get, why do you go to that church? And why you give money down there? Why you spend all that time down there? Well, it's because you're walking out legacy. You've got faith, and because of that, if you're the only one standing, you're going to stand. L.L. Collins wrote the song, I'm going to pray. If I pray by myself, I'm going to stand. If I have to stand alone, it'll be worth it to make heaven. If they don't go, I'm going anyway. I want everybody to go, but I'm not going to let anybody keep me from going. Are you with me? There's faith in my life. I'm acting it out. I'm speaking it. I'm moving forward with the faith that I have, because if no one else goes, well, that's their decision, but I'm going, and I'm going to walk out this legacy so that somebody else can hear and know. By the way, Jesus said, don't lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, but lay up treasures in heaven. What's that look like? Well, I'll say what it looks like. The only thing I believe that you're going to stand before the throne of God with is people that you have impacted with your faith. You're not going to say, well, I got this bank account. Here's my 401k. Here's my Roth IRA. Here's my comic book collection. None of that. You're going to stand there, and the thing that you can take with you into eternity is the people in your life that you love, the people that you encounter. And that's the investments that we get to make. I would say this, it's important to understand that you're lost without faith. Secondly, you're losing if there isn't sacrifice. Good things come out of sacrifice. Show me someone that's operating in a field of a vocation, a career, and they're doing well. I'll show you somebody that's probably made some great sacrifices to get there. It takes sacrifice. Right? It takes faith, it takes sacrifice. Right? And we have faith where we see it. Sacrifice is the idea that we're choosing it. 1 Peter 2:5 says, you also as living stones are being built up a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. You need to understand that sacrifice costs you something. David said in 2 Samuel 24, verse 24, that I'm not going to offer a sacrifice that costs me nothing. Sacrifice. You see, if somebody takes it from you and you didn't willingly give it, that's a thief, right? They've robbed you, right? If sacrifice is willing, that you willingly give it. If someone talks you out of something, they coerce you to give something away, but you didn't really want to, well, that's a scam. Sometimes I get these calls on my phone, scam likely. I just want to answer and say, Mr. Likely. Call me about my car warranty. I don't know, on my 99 Ford, I don't know if you got a warranty you can give me on that. One time, a few years ago, I got one, and I answered it, and the person started telling me about my taxes that I owed, and I'm going to go to jail real quickly. It freaked me out a little bit. I called my wife, I got off the phone, I said, hey, they just said they're going to, probably I said, lock me up. She said, we don't owe any taxes. I said, that's what I thought. They want to get my information to scam me because they want to talk me out of something that I'm not willing to give them. You see, sacrifice means that I make a choice and I willingly surrender it. Something that cost me, not something that didn't cost me anything. That's not a sacrifice. It's easy to give something away that you didn't pay for and you didn't bring about. But once you've paid the price, once it's cost you something, well, then to give it, well, that's a sacrifice. I said earlier, we're seated here this morning because somebody made a sacrifice. You live and breathe because somebody made a sacrifice. I think about the nation we live in. We experience freedom. I know freedom's not free. Somebody made a sacrifice. Somebody was telling me the other day that 5% of the U.S. budget is for veterans that are dealing with disability. And I thought, well, that's a good thing to give it to because those guys and those men and women gave a great sacrifice. It cost them something. Sometimes your praying is going to cost you something. May cost you that extra half an hour that you're going to sleep in the morning. But because you're walking out your faith, you're like, I'm going to set the alarm earlier. It's going to cost me something because I'm not going to give a sacrifice that don't cost me anything. You're giving. Sometimes you're going to look at this and this and this and that and the things that you could spend for and the things that you could buy. And you're going to say, but I'm going to give. And my giving is a sacrifice because it cost me something. Thirdly, you will lose, right? Don't get lost. You will lose without a life of generosity. Right? It takes generosity to live out legacy. Right? It's right. We see it. I said that with faith, with sacrifice. We're in a place where we choose it, but then generosity means this: we give it. We give it. Psalms 112 verse 9 says, they share freely and give generously to those in need. Their good deeds will be remembered forever. They will have influence and honor. I would say this, that you most likely don't remember or look fondly upon people that were greedy and stingy that came before you. It's the people that gave freely. I think I said this on the drop this past week or sometime or another, but I've had the opportunity several times to be with someone when they pass from this life to the next by virtue of what I do. And I've been there, and I've never heard anyone saying, I wish I wouldn't have gave that. I wish I wouldn't have put that money in the offering. I wish I wouldn't have prayed as much as I did. I wish I wouldn't have spent that hour and a half on Sunday morning in church. Nobody's ever said that. It's never been the words I've heard come out of anyone's mouth. I wish I'd have been more greedy and stingy and not so generous. Nobody's ever said that I've been around. Right? There's no impact without generosity. There's no legacy without generosity. The word here said there's no influence, there's no honor without generosity. I think if you think of the people that have contributed in life and made a generous contribution, those are the people we remember. I think about the fictional character of Robin Hood, We don't think fondly upon Robin Hood because he was a thief. How many know that? There's a whole lot of thieves that we don't celebrate and tell stories about and make movies about. I mean, they do some, but I'm just saying. We look fondly upon Robin Hood, that character, simply because he was generous. Yes, he was a thief. No two ways about it. He stole from the rich and gave to the poor. But because of this generosity that's exhibited in this character, we look fondly upon him simply because he was generous. The generous are the ones who are paving the way with legacy in this world. I want to be someone that lives out legacy. How about you? And lastly, this morning, don't get lost. Lostness blinds you to the required urgency. Meaning this. I said earlier, I was 17, they offered me to get in a retirement plan. And I thought, well, that sounds crazy. I'm thinking Jesus is coming in a couple years anyways. The thing I didn't understand is that when you're young, you're making the decisions if you're going to live out legacy or not. You're making the decision when you're young what your life's going to be like. It's urgency, it's immediacy. It means we do it today. Ephesians 5, verses 15 and 16 said, be careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. So let's do it now, do it today. You see, because I've had a great fortune to speak to high schoolers and middle schoolers over the years at different times, and one of the threads that continue to run through these moments I get to talk to young people is, I say, hey, just so you know, you're making the decisions right now that are going to be what your life is going to be. Right now. I mean, when I was in 5th grade, I didn't understand. I need to get good grades because those good grades are going to impact my life. I just thought I had to get good grades because that's what I had to do while I was there. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Like, I'll get in trouble if I don't get good grades. I didn't understand the long-lasting impact. I didn't understand, like, who I would date, the friends that I would make, that they're going to impact my life for a long time and even my eternity. Because if I'm going to live out legacy, I've got to understand whatever facet of life I'm in right now, that it starts today. It starts now. And urgency in the modern church I think it's been lost a little bit. We're trying to help people be good parents, and we should. Trying to help people to, let's have a marriage retreat. Let's have a ladies' conference or a men's conference. Let's do these things, and they're all nice and good. And yet we keep trying to help people do what pursuing God will do all on its own. Anybody with me? Again, all those things are good. I'm not against those things. I'm just saying this, that if we have an urgency, and sometimes it's lost in our modern form of Christianity. I remember when I was a kid, the pastor would give an altar call at the end of the service. When I was real young, our pastor, they called him Brother Louie. He was a little bitty guy. I felt like it's 9 years old, I was as tall as him. I don't know. And he had a handkerchief, and he'd always have his handkerchief out because he never, as far as I remember, ever preached without tears. And he'd wipe his eyes. Sometimes he'd wave his handkerchief. He'd walk down the aisle, invite people, come and pray. See, when somebody grabs you by the hand and they're crying and they're passionate about you coming, you just come. He did that because there's an urgency. He only lost people that were there that day to leave not knowing Jesus. And you could feel it. You could feel the urgency. I remember I'd hear preachers. I grew up in a church where we'd have they called it revival, but it was a long week service every night. You go to church, and I'd hear those evangelists get up and they'd say, now listen, I was in a meeting one time where a guy was there and he didn't repent. He didn't give his life to Jesus. He left there. He got down the road and got killed in train tracks. And you're like, I don't want to get killed in train tracks. I better pray right now. You tracking with me? He said that because he wants you to understand there's an urgency of giving your life to Jesus. It's not just a game. It's not, well, one day I'll do it whenever I feel like it, when all the planets align and all my ducks are in order and all that. No. You got to do it now. Legacy is about now. That I make a decision, determined focus, that right now I'm making the sacrifice to give my life to Him and to live this out so that others, not living just for myself, so that others that follow me will experience the goodness of God like I've experienced. It's not just getting it to me, but getting it through me. And I don't know where you're at. I don't know everybody in here. I don't know your status in life. I don't know your placement. I don't know your circumstances and the situations that you're dealing with right now. Don't know your backstory. Don't know how you got here today. I do know this, that you can live out legacy and make your life count for more than just you. But it doesn't start. Well, I'm gonna make a goal of the first year I'm gonna start doing this. Yeah, most of the time that doesn't ever happen very well. First year will hit. All these people have gym memberships. I think it's about 12 days later if they say if you go to the gym, you'll get a parking spot pretty easy. Right? You got to start it. I'm not talking about losing weight. I'm talking about working out. I'm talking about you got to start this idea of leaving legacy and living for legacy now. Everybody say now. Now. Why don't you stand with me? We're going to pray. I remember my Uncle Jesse, we called him Uncle. He's really my great uncle. He was my grandmother's brother. And one of those World War II guys. And, just a man of principle and commitment. And I can't tell you a whole lot about him. I mean, I could spend some time, but one thing that just stuck with me even today was in 1982 when his wife, Mary, they diagnosed her with Alzheimer's. I'd never heard of that before that time. And so he started taking care of her, and it was learning, like she would get out of the house, and neighbors would call us 3 streets over, hey, your wife's over here. And he'd go get her. Finally, he modified his house so that she couldn't get out so easily, and he built a big fence, like a wall in the backyard, so he could let her out on the nice days, so she wouldn't run away. And everybody thought, well, one of these days, he's probably going to put her in some institutional care. I remember he'd bring her to church every Sunday, praying for God to heal her, faithful to bring her in. And it wasn't easy. He'd have to hold her because he didn't always know what she would do. Stay right with her. He cared for her. He stayed with her, caring for her up till the time she died. And when asked so many times about putting her in a home or someplace, he would say this. I'll show you how legacy works. That this is what I know and what I got from somebody that passed on to me that didn't know they were passing on, just being who they were. Because when you're living out a life of faith, well, stuff just comes out and it spills on others. He said, I married Mary for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, till death do we part. And he said, I'm going to hang out with Mary till death takes her. He said, nobody else is going to take care of her. I'm going to take. By the way, everybody can't do like he did. Everybody's not required to do this. But the one thing I took away was, I want to have that kind of commitment. And no matter what the occasion, no matter how hard it might be, no matter how unforeseen things have creeped into my life, that I'm going to have commitment. That's legacy. That's the kind of stuff that you want to leave for somebody else. Somebody's watching you right now, and they're going to pick. You don't have to wait till you die to leave legacy, by the way. They're going to pick up on something that you're laying down. The question is, what am I laying down for others to pick up?